The building committee meeting to order. First up is the minutes of 129. Did you get them out?
I did.
You did. Everybody good?
Yep.
Motion to accept?
Make a motion to accept.
I'll second it.
A second? Any corrections? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Jim, I would just like to say thank you for sending me the minutes, because what I've been doing is putting them on bid docs as well.
Okay.
So you'll have a record, so when we close this whole project out, you won't be losing. So anything you want the final record on, please
Okay.
send it to me and I'll get it up there.
Okay. You are up, Greg.
I'm up. Okay, well, we're having some technical problems.
You didn't bring a laptop?
No, well, I knew that there's always something, and then, because Mike does all my laptop stuff, and then.
Of course mine's
Why
updating right
why are
now.
you updating?
I don't know, it never updates.
Is there another,
I can go and grab a laptop.
do you mind?
I can, yeah.
That would be
I don't know.
great, thank you.
Complete.
I did
100% complete.
ask about, not so much having a Zoom meeting, but if you guys want to call in, like have a private Zoom,
Right,
I could bring a laptop in, and you could we could call in like a private Zoom. Everybody else would be at the regular meeting, so that you could still confer with us remotely.
right,
But it wouldn't be a public Zoom, or it wouldn't be a hybrid meeting.
right, okay.
Right? So if you want to do that, we could do that.
No, and the only reason we wanted to do that is because now we're gonna get into the numbers. And you guys are all gonna complain, because I have, these, and you're gonna say, these numbers are so small, I can't read them, it's just the way, so that's all I wanted to do, is make sure that we had it, and so, but we will go through this, so that's not a problem, and
Okay.
we just have a technical problem right now of not having a computer.
Cool.
So while we're waiting for that, though, I can give you an update. So we did receive the geotech report.
Okay.
Okay, basically, good news, didn't find anything outrageous in there. They're talking about removing the first 2 to 3 feet of soil, as they kind of classify as unsuitables, but, that's nothing major. The water table on average is down at 25 feet below, and then we basically have sand and, silty sands and everything. So we can go with spread footings. So
Okay.
that's the good news. Didn't run into any ledge or anything. The 4 borings that they had were pretty consistent with everything that, you would expect out there. So I guess that's the first good news, as opposed to saying, yeah, we need deep piles or something like that, because that always adds a new dimension. And then, what else was there? So that takes care of that. We modified, and you'll see this plans in a minute, the 2 schemes that you want. Last time I presented 3 schemes. We had the full size, which was about 28,000, then there was like a 26,000, and then the 23, which was option 3. We worked with the 23,000 square foot option. We also did the option where we took out the travel aisle behind the thing, which reduced it about another 2,000 square feet on average, and then we've broken out the cost associated with that. Surprising, you'll be shocked to hear this, that by taking out that, and you'll see it in the estimate, taking out the 2,000 square feet in the back really only takes off about $350,000 on it, because it's the cheap space. It's not like you're taking out lockers or anything else. So I do have the breakdown on that. So depending on what your final number is and what you guys think is acceptable to the town, I would encourage you to leave the aisle in. Because for the $350,000, it's just, I mean, the advantages that you can get is phenomenal, because it at least allows you to queue trucks up in weather events. It also would allow you to put, at least 4 to 5 additional, whether there's a smaller trucks like pickups, or even if you had to put 10-wheelers in there, you could at least get 3 10-wheelers in there. But it gives you the additional parking space and everything that you need as well. Because the building got a little smaller, we also improved the site plan. So, and I know nobody is probably overly sensitized by it, but if you remember in the original scheme, we had the transformer and generator in the front of the building, but because now we moved the shortened the building, we've now put it on the back side near the fuel island end, so at least you have a presentable entrance when you come. And I know most DPW say, what does it matter? It's a 50-year building, so you might as well make it as nice as possible and everything. And then we can talk about some other things. Are you done?
5% complete.
Yeah, we'll probably be done with the.
Five.
So if we can all come back in 2 weeks, we can come and use Scott's computer, because he should be uploaded by then.
A few more seconds.
What's that?
I'm trying to just hard reboot it and
Yeah,
just
so-
cancel the update.
So one of the things that we'll do is, so the good news is, well, I guess it's good news, the building is under 20 million. Okay. Now, how much further we get under 20 million, that will definitely be something that we can talk about. I don't think there's a lot of stuff that we can take out. And
Is that one taking that aisle out? That was in the 20 million?
no, the base bid is. So here's what I'm going to do. While we're waiting, I'm going to pass these out, because I figure, but we'll, if we need to get more, I can see if we can print some out. Yeah. So, see, we have the technology now. Great. Scott is at 5% rebooting, so we figured by the time we're going to meet next week to do this.
That's 21 million with soft costs.
That is with soft cost, and I think we can get it below 20 million too with the soft cost, depending on how you want to deal with it. So, you're going to drive, Scott. You're the driver today. You be the mic.
Yelled at like Mike.
I never yell at Mike. Mike does everything, you know that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bail this out.
So the first thing we're going to do once you're... Do we have to turn on the monitor? Or is
Yeah,
it...
I'm looking for the outside there.
Can you see it, Jim? Are the numbers big enough to read okay?
Yeah, I can read.
Okay.
I don't need glasses. I can.
Okay.
My glasses are.
Everybody else yells at me for it. I don't know, for some reason...
You picking on the old man here?
Hey, I'm old too, Jim, so I'm not gonna say anything about your age. So the first one you want to do is the,
Just gotta get it to.
yeah, no, that's fine, but while you're looking at it, it's the,
I think it's HDMI 3.
Oh, is it?
excellent, okay. So why don't we do the final concept and you can either do, yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's the part. All right.
This is really detailed.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. What I find is, and this is why I'm saying it even at the concept stage, if you don't do it now, you guys are furious if I tell you, I think it's about 15 million and it comes in at 20 million, because then you guys sit here and say, what'd you do to us? So we try to get it as, and just to give you some background, this looks like this is loading up. Yeah. But no, just to give you some background, so obviously we've done a lot of DPWs. These numbers come, we do them internal estimating, and we also reach out to contractors and stuff. But we look at the previous schedule of values of current projects that we have in works or that are like a year old. Because we also own bid docs, we can see what those numbers are coming in. And so I feel comfortable that they usually are pretty accurate. I would like to tell you I'm perfect, but I'm not there yet, but we're working on it. But that's why I also want to go through and we can talk about some of the items that can come out, if you choose to.
if we have something to talk about.
Yeah, well, we're trying to,
All right, my computer's back.
are you back? Then we might do it on your
We'll
computer.
try it on mine.
Well,
Well, I don't know what that's doing, so let's try.
So what does this include? Building,
Everything,
salt
so
shed, the-
including the building,
fuel
the
island.
salt shed, the fuel island, the overhead crane, the lifts. It's a complete package. And we'll go through in that a little more detail. All right.
is that 2 service bays?
Yes, to the service bays and the wash bay. All right, so here we are. Excellent, thank you. Let me Teams. All right, so this is the reduced scheme that we talk about. The 2 main service storage bays. You've got 3 in the back. The service bays there, the wash bay, the office component. Next, please. Okay. So here's the site plan now. I don't know, can you do a little control minus to see if you can get it on the screen a little better or fit with? There, that's better. Okay. So as I told you, I mean, this is basically the orientation. Nothing has changed. But because we shortened the building, what we've done now is pulled the transformers and everything off of that end and put that all down at this end, okay, which I think works better. You'll see the fuel island came off the property line a little more, and we can work with you, Scott, whether this should be tucked back a little more or something. But as you can see, and then this straightened out this road as well, coming out and there. Same stuff is happening here. We'll have a new overhead to feed the treatment plant and everything. Everything else will be happening with this new facility. Now, a couple of things that we can talk about, and these are not going to move the numbers substantially, but I know. Right now, we show like a walkway along here so that if you're getting out of a car, you can walk there. You guys might say, just get rid of it. We're not going to use the walkway. And that's what I see nods. Everyone's nodding, get rid of the walkways. Okay, great. We can get rid of the walkways.
The state put enough of them in on Route 9.
Yeah, we don't have
need
enough
any
help
more.
to shovel them anyway.
Okay, that's fine. So there, so we're probably going to save, 20,000, something like that, with that. The other thing too, and again, right now we've wrapped all your curbs with granite, okay? What I would tell you as a minimum is at least around the building, keep all the granite curbing, okay? Just because it protects the building and everything. We can talk about, without the sidewalk there and everything, do you need the granite curbing there? And the answer is probably no. So again, those are some of the smaller numbers that we can talk about. We can talk about how we want to do the front entrance and everything, but I will work with Peter Glick, who's the civil on that, to decide those little details. Obviously, everything gets repaved and we leave the existing barn. Next slide, please. And we'll be happy to go back and forth to any slides you need. So the 2 service bays that we talked about, right now I carried a 10-ton crane. I think that's what we talked about, all right? And then you have your wash bay there. This is your office and mezzanine there. You've got the 2 major full storage bays. You've got the half bay there, and then this is the cross aisle that we talked about, and then your office area. Next slide. Same scheme, the only difference is we've taken out the cross aisle, but we did leave the side doors in there, so for service. Go back, please. But for the difference of the $350,000, I'd say buy this scheme.
Now,
Okay.
is the 21 million with the middle aisle or out?
It's the big scheme. I'll show you the breakdown.
Okay.
But, well, let's just jump and then we'll get into this. If everybody turns to the very last page, just flip it over at the thing. There's the breakout of what you lose the aisle on. That's why I'm saying it's about $350,000. Okay, so you could deduct $350,000 off of that 21 million.
If we get rid of the middle aisle?
If you decide to get
That's
rid of
fine.
it.
Okay, you want to be clear.
Again, I would just highly recommend we not do that. Next, please. Then you've seen all the renderings. Basically, we're doing the masonry around that area, the metal panels, all slope roofs, not even a flat canopy. Should make some people happy around here. So, But you know, I'm telling you, those flat roofs, if you wear those golf cleats, you don't have any problem slipping and sliding on them. So, next. And I think you've seen pretty much all of these slides. Just another thing. Again, everything is economical, durable, easy maintenance. Metal panel liners behind, so you get your tight envelope that's very energy efficient. Like I said, we're achieving about a 15 to 20% higher performance than what the stretch code costs, which is obviously helpful. All the windows would be the fiberglass windows, you know, as opposed to metal. Plus, they achieve a higher energy efficiency and everything. You can't get metal windows to meet the renovation codes and everything now. So next, and then this is just walking us around the building. Next, please. Next, please. And we're back to the end, and that's it. Oh, okay, so here's the conceptual estimate. Next slide, please. This is the overview, and then we can pull up the slide. So, yep, as you can see, we're at a raw number of about 15.7. That's with all the subcontractors and everything else. Then it comes into what is the contractor want. So for example, you see I put a 10% overhead on there, 3% profit, 3 to 4% profit is typically what they're getting on these buildings because they have to be competitive. I'm assuming you're going to waive the permit. That's just an assumption, not guaranteed on that. And they're carrying about a 1.2% bond on the project because you'll have to carry that. So that gives you a grand total of $18 million just to get. Now, the reason I don't get too excited depends on when you're releasing this to bid, which would be in the September timeframe, so that you can meet the town meeting. Well, I would say that you approve this at town meeting in May. We would recommend that we get this out like September, October, because I used to think February was the best time to build, but I'm hearing from all the contractors, they actually like to bid in September and October, because they just finished their summer slammers and everything. They're desperately looking for something to put on the books so that they know in the spring they have work. So I've been told that they're obviously December and January are not good times to bid because of the holidays and everything. So in this case, you'd have May, June, July, August, September, about 3.5 to 4 months to get the package together, assuming it gets through Concom and planning and everything else like that. That this could be hitting the street the end of September, early October. You would have bids in November. Whether they choose to start work or not, that's something that we can work with the town and get. And the reason I say looking at these numbers is because I know that a couple of the contractors I work, they may only have a single aggregate limit of $17.8 million. Okay, and they will tell me if that number is accurate, we would probably take it at 17.8. Only because what happens is it gives them additional money so that they can up their limits, because right now my understanding is the DCAM certification has not kept up with inflation, where they used to be able to do $10 million DPWs. There's no such thing as a $10 million DPW anymore. And the other thing too is I've heard, because contractor I worked with both at Montague and Franklin Regional Transit, he said he carried no profit on that job, and at the end of the day he still walked away with about a 5% profit. So it just depends on how hungry the contractors are in order to whether that number comes. But at least I thought for the raw number of about 16 million, 18 if you load it, you can see we could be touching the 17.5 depending how hungry they are. I don't think we're going to get much lower than that, but again, we'll have to put that out on the street to bid. Assuming an 8% design fee, 4.5% for the OPM fee, and then there's a series of these soft costs, like the utility back charges, because obviously there'll be some of that. The geotechnicals, additional survey fees, testing fees, moving fees, legal fees, printing fees, IT equipment. I carried at $65,000, and then furniture. We can get more into the details. I know I had a brief conversation with Scott and Neil about this. Some of these numbers appear high, some are low, but for now they're at least a placeholder. And then you get, so that comes out to about 22.6 million for a whopping number of 21.6 all-in project. Okay. You can see the breakdown by division essentially, 8 to 10% for the general conditions, and then the various categories to see where you are. Your site is not bad compared to the most recent sites. You're coming in just shy of $2 million. Boxford, they're up at $4 million. But they're building on a cliff on the side of the wetlands in the dump. So at least you chose not to do that. Electrical and mechanicals are, relatively, large portion of that. And then excuse me, everything else kind of breaks down to where they're supposed to be. And obviously the metal steel. Steel is a factor now. As you know, last month, all the American steel fabricators raised their prices 20% because they heard tariffs were coming. If the tariffs kick in like they're supposedly kicking in, I hear they're going to raise them another 25%. Don't know. So that is a variable that we don't have a whole lot of say on. But even if they raised, let's say, 20 to 40%, you're only talking about 400,000 to 500,000. I know, I throw that around. Only 400,000 to 500,000. Isn't that what you made last week?
I made that today.
Oh, you did. Okay. So maybe you wouldn't mind contributing towards.
Not at all.
No, we can put your name on it.
He'll waive the surveying fees.
Okay.
No, I'm gonna get off the select board and become the surveyor for this project, so I can make some money.
You do it for half and still make double.
Well, we could all take up egg farming because eggs are really a pricey thing now.
That's true.
Today. So, because I hear restaurants are putting a 50.
We're gonna fill this place full of chickens and raise chickens.
Paid for it.
So, hey, well, at least we could use the old building for that.
Yeah.
All right, next slide. And then this was on the back of the slide. So what I did was I went through, took all the various line items, deducted out the amount that because we're talking approximately 2,000 square feet for purposes. So I took out the building concrete and everything, came to a total of about 300,000, 290, and then you minus the overhead markups and profits. So you're looking at about a deduct of about 350,000 to get rid of that aisle. Scott, if you could now go into the next thing that says the spreadsheet. Okay. It's conceptual cost estimate, go up a couple. Yeah, there. Yes.
Oh, the spreadsheet or the?
They're the same thing. And one's a PDF and the other one's. So then I'll kind of walk you through this. So you've seen this part next. So that was that cover sheet that I had. Okay, so we'll just go division by division quickly on this. I'm anticipating, 12 to 15 months on this. And we'll probably advertise it at 12 months, but if it runs over a little, it's fit. So as you can see, I carried 60 weeks on the project. You're talking about 1.4 million. Again, I think these numbers are pretty accurate because most of the jobs we're doing there at about 8 to 10% range of the overall project. Demo, you told me that the existing house has asbestos in it, about $25,000. So you'll see that the residence we have at about $45,000 for that. The storage shed, which I call that little chicken coop, and the only reason I called it, because when we did Berlin, they literally were in a chicken coop. And it looked very similar to that. And then we have the salt storage. And then I even carried a little money for demoing the fuel island, which I know Scott said that he would probably take care of with a bulldozer or just let one of his drivers back into it or something like that. Just kidding, Scott. And then obviously there's always some miscellaneous. So we're looking at, I'm guesstimating about $125,000 to demo. You all may be able to find a cheaper and easier way to do it. And that is something that we've worked with other towns and stuff. Like, for example, obviously you can't get rid of your salt shed right today, but you may be able to bring somebody in to take that house down, and they may be able to do it for, a lot less than what we're asking, or estimating on this, I should say. Next slide, scroll up, next division, sorry. So concrete, I'm always amazed by this number, but that seems to be the going rate for these DPWs. As you can see, we calculated all the yardage and stuff. We can quibble about whether it's $200 a yard, whether it's $165 a yard, or somewhere in between. I know when the towns look at this, they go, well, we get it off of our Chapter 90 thing for like 155. But I think it's probably, like 165 now for Chapter 90? Concrete and asphalt and stuff.
I haven't seen it, and I know they sent out a thing that It went
Okay.
up quite a bit of money.
Okay, so,
Recently.
but anyway, so we're, like I said, carrying about $200 a yard and then the labor associated with that. Always surprised about that. Ask about taking off the masonry. Yes, we can strip all the masonry off. However, I would encourage at least the 4-foot band. I don't think the masonry is breaking the budget on this one. That's my personal opinion. I will take whatever direction you all decide to carry. And if you can scroll back up to the concrete for a minute, say. And this is where I was saying we can talk about where is it? There's concrete, flatwork, sidewalks. So the whole sidewalks is like $22,000. So if we take off some of that, we might get 10 or something off. It's not going to be, again, a game changer. I will get to those numbers. Someone's about to ask me a question.
I was gonna ask, what did you mean by the taking off the masonry? Because we definitely, the masonry 4 foot up inside the building, it was a 4 foot.
Around the perimeter, yep.
That's
stays.
That's not
But
negotiable.
Right, but I was talking about like when you saw that other image where the office was
veneer.
all wrapped in masonry and stuff.
Oh, okay, okay.
Again, I like to say to everybody, go back to the one more. There it is. Taking off that masonry, it's a 50-year building, and this is what everybody, you know. Sure, could you save a few $100, $100,000? Yes, I'm not going to tell you you can't, but again, I would probably just say encourage you to leave the masonry because it's just going to be less maintenance, durable, and everything else, and everything then up high is all the panels and stuff.
Would there be a decent sized difference in price if you just did it with a metal siding there?
All the way down to the ground, or just up to the 4 foot
Up to
base?
the 4 feet, just to match like where the trucks are. with the
Yeah,
office.
I mean, so if all the masonry is called $400,000, if I took off, you know, say 50 to 75% of the masonry, we're going to save, say, like $300,000, but then I have to upgrade the panel on it. So it's probably a $200,000 savings when all is said and done.
But, you know, like Jimmy said weeks back, you know, we're gonna be pinching pennies and.
But he's contributing. He made that 500 this day.
No, that was Randy.
Sorry, okay.
But, you know, a couple 100,000 here, a couple 100,000 there, might get it.
I'm not going to disagree with you, and this is the direction that if you say, strip the masonry off and only put the base on, I'll strip the masonry off.
And it's not like we're parked in the middle of town, we're out in the, you know, so.
Again, but you know, one thing I'm finding, and Scott may be able to speak to this, whether it's Rentham, whether it's Hudson, we're working on these jobs. What we're finding now is the younger crowd that is coming into the profession, if I can use that term, they want nice buildings. Because I'm finding, you know, Eric Ryder, who's at Hudson, and Scott and I are both working on that, said, when they used to show them the old building and stuff, they couldn't get it. So I think everybody's looking for something a little nice. You drive up to a building with masonry or something, I think it looks nice. Doesn't look overly done or anything.
I'm not arguing that point at all. Yeah,
But
let's-
again,
What type of mason, is that like panels or is that individually laid?
no, that's what we call Aeroscraft. It's a simulated stone. So
Similar to what we've got at the lower part out here.
probably, yeah, you know. And they lay it like, but it's a larger thing, so it's
Right.
not quite as
Goes
labor
on in
intense.
sections.
Yeah. So again, I'm not going. If the committee says at the end of this presentation, get rid of the sidewalks, get rid of the masonry, get it down to 4 feet, do this, we will, you know, revise it accordingly. So, next slide. But you'll keep the American flag?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay.
Done with masonry?
We are done with masonry, yes. So then here's where we're at metals. As you can see, the bulk of this is in the steel and everything. Now, you look at these numbers and they're crazy. And I'm just going to say they're crazy. Because when you're looking at shop drawings for $85,000, those are numbers I am pulling off of schedules of values now. You know, will that change a little? Sure, it might go down to 65 or something like that. But this chunk of stuff up here, insurance, project man, it's being carried on the schedule of values and consistently across the board. Because I kind of took the average of them based on the site. So you are going to see some crazy numbers in there like that, but those are, you know, straight out of what I'm seeing the contractors that are working on that. And then we get into bollards, platforms, grates, and everything else, and that's how we get to the 1.8 million there. Next slide, next section, please. Thank you. Wood and plastic, that's just a rounding error. There's blocking in there. There's millwork and stuff, solid polymer counters and stuff, nothing big there. Moisture protection. So again, the other big number that you're going to see start shooting up is you start looking at these metal panels and stuff. Now what's really kind of interesting is the roofing, okay? At the end of the day, everybody says, well, is it cheaper to put the metal panels up or the membrane roofs? It's really about a wash, because if I were to put membrane roof, the membrane roof would only come in for about $300,000, $350,000, somewhere in that range. However, then I have to put the substrate, the deck, and everything in there, which then drives it up another $400,000. With the panels, they go up faster, they'll be seamed, they'll be jointed and everything. You all asked for a slope roof, I'm giving you a slope roof. The cost differential is negligible on that. So you're really splitting hairs there. But as you can see, a lot of the money is in the roof and everything, and not so much in the other panels and stuff. Yes, they add up. I just carry those numbers so that if you ever decide to tell me you want that, I can put that in. Next section, a division.
Greg, is this the difference in cost between a panel, like a finished panel, and a panel behind the masonry?
Yes, the liner panels and stuff. You know. Now look at, you'll go on Kingspan, you'll go on, and you'll see all these numbers coming in at $10 a square foot or $12 a square foot. But what those don't carry is all the fasteners and all the joints. And so that's why you see the material slightly higher as opposed to just, you know, the raw number there. Finishes, again, a big number on here is the, and I'm sure many of you have done it, is drywall framing, life gauge framing and stuff. That always seems to be the big number there. Then everything else in there is kind of, you know, the number it is. One of the things that we do is the epoxy floors. I would encourage you, for the size and what I see of the current operations, that you just do the entire office area with epoxy floors. You know, don't put carpet in the office and everything. That way, if somebody walks in with dirty boots or something. Some of the places we do, because it's more segregated and they put the public and let that, the carpets and stuff work. We put hundreds of thousands of square feet of it down, easy to mop, easy to clean, durable. We roll it up the bases and everything, and you'll have it for 50 years, you know. And so, and again,
The problem with the flooring, like tiles and carpet tiles, we've got a building that's, you know, 5 years old already, and they've stopped making the carpet tiles, so you can't even match them if you wanted to.
So, and then you can do like VCT and everything else, but then people have to go and wax it and maintain and stuff. And basically, you just want to throw a mop on it and clean it. Though I would encourage you to use clean water, because the only joke about it is there was a job at Eversource, and the facilities director was convinced that the epoxy floor was just horrendous. And he brought his mop out and everything, and it was a dirty water. And the contractor grabs the mop and it's clean. And as he's sitting there, we're talking like this. Just literally talk like this, cleaning the floor, and he goes, I don't see what the problem with the floor is. If you put clean water in it, helps clean it. But literally, so. Anyway, next group, specialty. So this is one of the things, and again, there's some small numbers in there, there's some large numbers in there. Okay, we do what we call the Patriot lockers. It's a brand, it's the Penco brand for the Patriot lockers. 18 inches wide, has a divide down, dirty clothes, clean clothes. It has a drawer underneath for the boots that can lock and everything. It's all a built-in shelf. The reason we do that is we used to put the benches out and stuff, but then guys store their boots underneath. It's harder to clean maintenance. They're not cheap. I mean, as you can see, the Patriot lockers are running about $1,300 a locker, plus the install. So we have that, and then you guys can decide what we call the platform lockers. Platform lockers are 2 feet wide, 2 feet deep by 4 feet high, and they stack on each other. They have like a grated front on it. And usually what we put those is you put those out in the garage and stuff, so the guys, their wet weather gear, their tools and stuff that don't need them. You decide you don't want that, great, we can pull it out, and you're saving yourself about 20 grand on that. Other than that, it's whatever the accessories are and stuff that we need, you know, refrigerators, you know, accessories for the toilet and stuff. Here's the big numbers. That's why this is highlighted in yellow that you should talk about. All right, containment pallets. You guys told me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, you didn't need the fluid reels and everything. You were just going to use the barrels and, you know, is that correct?
I thought he originally said if it was possible to do the reels in the middle of those two.
We can do that. Okay.
Between those two stalls.
Right. Okay. So the fluid reels and everything are coming in about $55,000. I'm okay with that. I mean, if that's what you want, I will add that, but that was not carried in this. I thought they were going, I can change the estimate to accommodate that, so that's fine. I have you.
I mean, we're gonna need currently we have two, hydraulic and diesel oil, motor oil in the big 275s with reels. So I mean, some of those trucks are up to 30, 40 quarts of oil, so we kind of need.
Okay, not a problem. It could have been my misunderstanding, so. Okay. Then what we have in here is the truck lift. I call it that because I think you said you wanted the scissor type that folds down and then lifts up, as opposed to like the 4-post or something. So that runs about $65,000. A rotary lift, new rotary lift for that is about $26,000. Some portable lifts. That's something you can buy after the fact if you choose to. So we have some money in that for the portable lifts. The safety rails and stuff you need. The bridge crane that you're talking about is about $75,000. Yeah. So again, you need it. That's put it in. Here's where the decisions I think you should now make if you want to bring the numbers down. Okay. You need a salt shed. I'm not suggesting you get rid of the salt shed. This number that we have currently is coming from Hudson, but they're literally building it this month and getting a price and everything. And the same thing with the fuel island. That's a straight off the print, like a month-old number and stuff. This is a big number that can have a factor on it. If you got rid of your fuel island, you take off all the overheads and everything, you're talking about almost $800,000 that you could pull off this number. And I know I was at the last meeting. There's a serious conversation. Is it better to do what you're doing now with the cards? Or is it better to have the fuel island? Do you prep for it? Do you put the fuel island? You tell me what you want, and we will do whatever you want. I know if I ask Scott right now, he wants the fuel island back. Don't blame him.
No, not.
No, really?
Don't jump so fast.
Whoa, okay, then things have
Because
changed.
Scott ran some serious numbers
Okay,
on what fuel pump, fuel island, and I'll give the man credit. He's absolutely taking an honest look at it. And
okay,
he's willing to listen. He's not hard fast that it's got to be a fuel island.
Hey,
Yet.
I should make everyone a copy of this to see, but,
Yeah.
so, like, right now, or when I did this, February 3rd, price at the pump, for the Wex card, because like our discount, whatever, was $3.29 a gallon. The contract price was $3.55 a gallon, or 72 cents above rack price. In the last couple of years, we were buying rack price plus because we were worried about the condition of the gas pumps, because we got hung out a couple of years ago on a load of diesel fuel that we couldn't take, and we had to pay storage on and whatever, so we just started buying fuel at rack price plus. So, right now, obviously, gas is, I think it was $3.04 a gallon, so it's come down. If we bought it on contract, we'd be paying a lot more than what we could at the pump, because of the market-driven thing. Obviously, diesel fuel, it's about $4 a gallon at the pump. Contract price of it was $3.44 a gallon, or 74 cents above rack price. So on the diesel fuel, we could be saving a little bit right now, but what do you really save it when you own these pumps and everything that goes along with it? The maintenance, the equipment,
inspections,
inspections. There's a lot that goes along with owning the fuel pumps. There's not. I know it's going to take the town of Hadley a long time to recuperate $800,000.
I see a lot of fleets and they have a truck come and fill up everything at night.
literally they know when the equipment needs it or whatever, right?
Yes.
Well, they go every
Right,
night,
yeah.
they do every truck, and they,
Bourne does that, yeah.
You know, there's
there's a bunch of
Diesel-
places.
yeah.
Diesel direct.
There's more options
diesel,
than just
right.
going to a pump
Yeah.
and putting in that expensive fuel island. And they're all good things, and I'll give Scott credit. He's absolutely looking at this with an optimistic point of view, and he's realizing money is expensive, and he's doing a good job.
We could buy our own truck and go do that.
You could.
So
Go to
with,
Springfield
less than
and
that.
fill it up.
Yeah.
Right, right.
so with that said, and I will let you all make the final decision. What I would do is, we'd plan for the fuel island, we'd run conduits out there, bury them underground and everything. Let's say you run the cards for the next 3 years, 4 years, and it's working out great and you keep running it, okay? 5 years from now, whatever, the world changes again, and all of a sudden it's cheaper to, I mean, obviously the fuel island will be more expensive then, but then you can drop in the fuel island. But if, this will move that number down. You know, granted, even if I put the 55,000 back in for the fluid reels and stuff, that's the markup and everything. You've just taken off $700,000, $750,000 off this number.
So why would you even go out to the location, not just at the edge of the building for in 5 or 10 years to connect at the building?
So you don't cut through the black.
Well, so the reason is because you have the VEDA routes, the management, and all of that has to go internal to like the office and stuff, where rather than core through and dig through and try to break up through the slab and say, it's just easier to run the conduits up the side.
Well,
Conduit's cheap now. I mean, putting it in when you're doing construction, what are we gonna add, $1,000 to the overall project? I mean, to me, it's just whatever, because the other thing too that happens with the technology changes and stuff, who knows? You know, there might be a new metering system or something that you need, and you're gonna want those because we run spare conduits out all the time, just in case. Because it's cheaper than tearing up pavements and stuff. So anyway, my point being, whatever the committee decides, if you say pull the thing, that now gets our raw number down to closer to in the 14s, you know, and which almost puts us under the $20 million all in. So
well,
those
to me, that's an easy one. Just
pull the go.
buy with a
Yeah.
credit card or
Okay.
however you got it.
Run the conduit, and
Yeah.
if things
Okay.
change and if it's more economical, then they'll vote for it later.
Scott and I talked about it earlier today, and you know, if you're saving 50 cents a gallon and you're spending $800,000, that's a lot of gallons just
Yes.
to break even, and
Never
then not
mind the
to,
insurance, the maintenance.
right, all that
the-
stuff, so.
Well, it's not just that 800,000, it's all the percentages on top of.
Yes.
That you minus off the whole project.
Yeah.
But how many places have it during an emergency, you know, if everybody were out of power? Just curious, what's the closest and how many stations?
We have
Depends on who's without power.
Yeah.
How many trucks do we have that have fuel tanks in them?
That we don't use during a storm.
You know, in the bed.
Right.
If
We
we
have
have
to, yeah.
that, we can use that for emergency purposes.
Yep.
You know, if we get 2 or 3 trucks that got
Those will-
50, 100-gallon tanks on them, then.
And Eversource is going to price, so if they don't have an
Yeah.
issue,
Yeah, yeah.
how do we have an issue?
Yeah, we can go, you know, Amherst, you know, we can go over there and get something
Yeah, I
if we
mean,
need to. There's-
nowadays with mutual aid agreements and with towns and stuff, we could go down there if we had to go to Amherst or South Hadley or
Yeah.
whatever, and if we were really, really that desperate to fuel up. So
We have a hand pump.
we haven't, yeah.
Yeah,
If you get in a bind, I'll give you my account number at Carish's.
there you go.
We have one.
So. Well, Scott, I guess you're just winning the game now because you've taken the most off of this. Everybody else was, you know, doing
See,
sidewalks
he
and
added the reels,
stuff.
though.
Huh?
He added
Okay,
the
he
reels.
gives,
I added the
he'll
reels.
give us the fluid reels.
Okay. So, fire protection is fire protection. This is all assuming now. I do want to just clarify this. This is all based on the fact that we're assuming you're bringing that water line down the street. Okay, we didn't carry the cisterns, we didn't carry the fire pump or anything else like that. If we do that, if you don't have that, and we have to add that, you're probably talking about $100,000 to $150,000 to bury tanks and all that other stuff. So that is assuming that you will have a new water line. But you know what I would then say, Scott, take the $800,000 from that and buy your water line, because it's probably a better use of the money then, it sounds like.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Scrolling right along there. Plumbing is plumbing is plumbing. We obviously need it. I don't know if we can get any closer to the sewer treatment plant, but we can always try. So, but again, it's just pricey. you know.
Is that sewer line, I know you haven't got that far to shoot any grades, but do we need a pump station to get that to that sewer manhole by our?
I have not checked that yet, so because we have the rough survey and stuff of more
Yeah.
property, but we don't actually have the inverts and stuff. But even if we had to put a pump station, it's not gonna be
A huge deal.
huge number, yeah, so.
You mentioned when you started talking about the fuel station, about the salt shed
Yes,
that you're dealing with the other town. In this estimate, is that the canvas pipe or the
no, that is a hard structure,
hard structure?
yes.
Okay.
Basically what we do is we put 12-foot high concrete walls, about 18 inches thick. You get an asphalt floor. We used to put concrete down, then layer it with asphalt. Everybody's telling me they're happy with just putting 6 inches of asphalt in there. And then it's got the gambrel shape with shingles and everything else on it, and some translucent panels. And it's
Asphalt shingle type?
yes, yeah. So they're prefabricated now. There's a company that we use, Advanced Technology Structures, and that's what they're doing. So that kind of takes care of that.
That's high enough where these trailers just back in and?
Yeah, it's a 30-foot high
So they can
pitch. So
go-
right now they're like 50 feet by about 70 feet. And we can shorten that depending on how much salt you want to carry in and stuff. But yes, a truck can tip them and you're not going to be taking the top off.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still hit the walls though. I don't want to underestimate that opportunity.
Well, yeah.
That-
We
No,
watched the
I
guy
just-
lift the roof off and it went out and told him, no, I didn't. The gutter's hanging on your truck.
I think the permanent structure is a smarter way to go in the long run.
Mhm.
Well, the permanent structure you have now, what's that, like 50 years old? Is that like 70s?
No, it's not
That's
that.
probably in, what, mid-80s?
Yeah, okay, but still, that's a 40-year-old. I can tell you the fabric structures don't last 40 years.
No,
There was
And if you
there
get the
was a lot of
wrong
years where
windstorm-
the salt was just out in the water,
Outside.
in the weather.
running down the manhole.
Right.
This is a lot of money, just because I know it's looking at our current salt shed, that whether we do something or not, you can see the shingle is starting to have a little bit of issue.
Mhm.
To put more of a permanent, say metal roof or something on a salt shed, is that?
Even
Well,
like corrugated metal
Yeah,
instead
a
of-
corrugator. So here's the problem with the salt sheds. It's salt.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
It's salt.
Wood structures are better than the metals and stuff. Could you put a metal roof on? Absolutely. You could put a standing seam metal roof. I'm not sure you're going to get much more out of that, because it'll get dented and stuff. If if the wind peels it, peels. Asphalt shingles are about as cheap as you can get for something like a utilitarian structure. I mean, your main building won't have it because we're using the insulated metal panels to also do the thermal performance on it. But the salt shed,
Well, it's just like you don't park your truck in the salt shed to keep it out of the weather.
Right.
in the summer, because you won't have it in the fall.
Where to go?
okay. So we did plumbing. That's mechanical is mechanical is mechanical. I know we talked about propane. Still the option, because I can pull up the elevations again. We have kind of figured out a new way to play with the heat pumps, okay? Because you do have the mezzanine above the bathrooms now. That will be your mechanical rooms and stuff. And the way we're doing it, because we're doing this down at Bourne, we're putting the mechanical room in the basement. And it's not really a basement, it's an exposed thing, to get the air, which potentially would mean that you don't have the threat as much of the freezing and stuff, because you'd be quasi-indoors. Again, right now, we're just assuming that you're going to go with the propane and everything, but the reality is if you wanted to consider heat pumps, we could. We can run the numbers on the electricity. Right now, natural gas is the cheapest, but you don't have that luxury. And then the propane, again, varies from, I'd have to run the numbers against propane against electric to see where you're going to come out ahead on that one. But that is just something to be considered. But one thing that I think we all agreed on is all of the vehicle storage area and the mechanics bay area is all radiant floor heat.
Correct.
Okay, and so whether it's heat pumps doing a boiler or whether it's the propane doing the boiler, 6 of one, half dozen of another, but you've got radiant floor heat. So that's the critical thing on
Well,
that.
I still, and I'm, I guess, the only one harping on this, have an issue of heating all this area with trucks just sitting in there. We got the wash bay, so at the end of the storm, you wash the truck and it's in an insulated building, but doesn't necessarily need to be heated.
So, But I think at the end of the day, when you run the calcs and everything, it's cheaper to use the radiant floor heat because you've got that.
Not cheaper than nothing.
Well,
I'm not saying take radiant heat out of the mechanics bay where they're working on trucks, but when vehicles are just sitting there, and you're gonna be paying for propane, whatever the cost is for the next 50 years, versus, a lot of companies, their trucks are outside.
Right.
You go to Stop and Shop, that loader's sitting out in the parking lot, they go over there and they start it up. It's not even plugged in.
right.
So we could have so many square feet for equipment. Every truck can be plugged in, the motor's warm when you take off in the morning, there's no ice on it, there's nothing. Melt it off, to me, and even if we're taking $100,000 off the
Right.
price, never mind, year after year,
Right.
you're paying for propane or whatever.
Okay, so the radiant floor heat, as you can see, it's about $275,000 for that.
But that's the whole building,
That's for all the vehicle storage and everything, yes, okay.
including
The mechanics being,
Yeah.
right, okay. So now here's if you run my numbers, it's about $16 a square foot for the radiant floor heat. Contractors jump up and down and swear, because I just got a call, because I asked a few contractors, they checked with their subs and stuff, they think you can get it down to under $10 a square foot. Okay, I don't know yet. I mean, I'm carrying 16 to be on the safe side. Everybody tells me they can do everything for 10, and then when they actually bid it, they're at 20. So I'm carrying 16. So this would be multiple zones. So to achieve what you're talking about, it could still be, you just zone it so that, let's call this zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. That you just operate it where you're only running the water through zone 3 and not doing the other. Because going in and trying to put the radiant floor heat after the building's built,
No, you can't.
Well,
kind of expensive.
No, you wouldn't do that, but
Yeah.
if anything, your boiler size would be smaller if you're only doing, say, the mechanics area and where the wash stations are, because that was all gonna be heated space. All that other square footage, well, okay, at the most, if you put the stuff in the floor, but your boiler size is small, say add another boiler,
Right.
if you ever needed it in the future. But, that's a lot of square footage. How many guys here are half the guys have their cars outside, and they
Right.
might heat their garage for it to melt off after a snowstorm.
Well, so again, the way I look at this is, you have the concrete working in your favor. It's a thermal mass that's holding that. When you open that door, if we put unit heaters to blow in and stuff, and you say, well, we don't need the heat. Well, you don't need the heat today. I concur with that. But Scott would know, Gary would know as well, is as things were moving on, I would not be surprised if in another 10 years, every town is required to get vac trucks and stuff like that, and some of these other trucks. And one of the things that, you have to keep those in warm spots. I know you don't do yours now,
Well, we don't do it now because we don't use it. You can't use it in the winter. It takes literally like 4 hours to clean it.
Right. So
Yeah,
my
freeze
point
it.
being is, whether you do exactly what you said, put all the thing in, prep it, run, put the smaller boiler in and put the bigger boiler in. Do it now so you don't regret it.
Well, I think a vac truck should have a stall with a heated space, no matter how much we go and heat on this garage. Right now, we're heating everything, at least in your plan.
Right.
But if it wasn't, there still should be an area for that vac truck to be parked. And
We'd have to park in the wash bay then.
Well, and that was kind of my idea of having the third mechanic bay and getting rid of space somewhere else.
Well, let me ask you this. The mechanics bay is going to cost me about $700,000 to $1 million to build. The radiant floor heat there is only going to cost me $300,000.
But
Well, so to the point of parking the vac truck in the wash bay, so then when we go plow snow or whatever and we need to wash, we gotta get the vac truck out
well,
and it's not gonna be ready to
that's
move
not my point. I
outside.
think that maybe is Greg's. I'm saying, like with that gray area, if that was another stall for the vac truck to sit all the time in a heated area, and then you take out that same square footage in the unheated area, it shouldn't be $1 million to make another stall if it's heated or not. I'm not saying put cranes in there or lifts or or anything else.
The problem with that, your main garage, you're not keeping that at 64 degrees like the rest of the building.
No, you're keeping
You can
that,
drop
like,
it
we
way
say
down.
like 55
50 degrees, just
yeah.
so that and half the time, most of the time when these guys are done snow plowing, they're not washing the truck at 4 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon after they've been in for 20 hours. They're gonna put them inside, then you're gonna wash them off after. Is that about how big is this compared to Montague's garage?
This
Close.
is probably about 2/3 the size of Montague.
All right, Montague, when I was there, they had those 2 Smith boilers running, oil fired.
Right.
They burned about 600 gallons of oil the whole year with the
Okay.
radiant heat in the floor.
I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I asked the superintendent
I
over
don't care, I
there.
don't believe that.
It's radiant,
Okay,
what do you, how much you?
so
you
here's
got-
what
you
I-
We got
oil?
radiant.
What, do you got oil?
Yeah,
How big of an area?
it's smaller than this.
What do you,
We keep it at 55.
okay.
It
How much
depends
ever-
on the
We use about
insulation of the
2,000
building.
Depends on-
and
yeah,
the
No,
doors.
it's a mid-block building, but it's
Yeah.
insulated, but
Yeah.
we use about 2,000 gallons a winter.
And what's a gallon of oil running now?
Right around
Three,
$3.
yeah.
So you pay about 6,000 a day.
I'm just looking at, get rid of that heat where you're just storing iron, and here you are, and you can save some money, because.
I mean, if we're gonna do that, we can put a tent up like down in Scottsdale, Arizona, the car auctions, and park them under it.
Well,
No,
yeah.
but I do know from our own trucks, when we keep them warm, they rust faster.
Well, it's all works,
Well, that's how ours are, because we're not washing.
but you got the wash bay now.
We got a wash bay to
They may
run
not do
them
it-
through.
You might not
And
do
then
it
dry
every
'em
day,
out.
but
They may not do it at 3 in the morning, but the
Yeah.
next day.
Well, I hear the most beneficial things, okay, the heat in the floor is probably gonna run 8 to 9 months out of the year. Because during the spring, summer, and fall, the doors are gonna be wide open, you're gonna just, then when the cold season really kicks in, say November, December, you'll probably run it December, January, February, maybe March, or somewhere in those 3 to 4 month period. Every DPW director that I've talked to it's when you're coming in at 3 in the morning, the truck's covered with snow, wash it or don't wash it, they pull it in there, the guys take their quick nap, grab a bite to eat, the truck's clean, ready to go, and they're not, doing all the snow removal and everything else. So, again,
I agree with everything you're saying, but I'm looking at, is this gonna pass town meeting and the ballot vote for an override? Unless we, because all I hear is, what do they need versus what do they want?
Mhm.
And you look at this compared to where they're working now, it's like a million times better without the heat in the floor. Yeah, it'd be great to have all this stuff, but,
Where we are now, it is heated, both sides.
well, again, you could park trucks in there instead of storing junk in there, because it's heated. I'm just.
Well, what do you pay for the heat in there a year?
It's like a waste oil
Number
heater
2,
in
we've
there.
only been burning about 300 to 400 gallons a year.
But they got a waste oil burner.
No, I understand that, yeah. And like when we did Groton, they had waste oil, we re-skinned their whole building with this, and where they used to go through 6, tanks fulls, now they're going through like 1.5 tanks, and they don't know what to do with the waste oil. I mean, so.
Ship it up here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so,
All right, can they put in waste oil burners now? Are they still
you could
legal?
put them in, but most of the people aren't dealing with it anymore. Because it's just, with the buildings being more efficient, it's like, what do you need all this waste oil for? And it's just one more handling thing.
but you gotta get rid of the waste oil.
I understand that, but it's, again, it's
They
oil
don't
is.
put it down the Connecticut River anymore, so
Yeah.
burners get free heat.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put heat in, at least you're doing something for the environment to get rid of this stuff,
Yeah.
and not buying
You're not paying
propane.
somebody to take it
Well,
out.
we still got the waste oil heaters in the old building
We'll use
where
it.
we can
Yeah,
use
to get
the
rid of
oil.
our stuff.
Yeah.
So, I don't know,
And
it's just.
Anyway, I will let you gentlemen make the decision on how you want us to direct it or something. But I would agree with you, at least put in all the tubing now, whether you plug it in or not, because it's cheap to put it in now, okay? And then the question is, maybe you put two boilers in there, one for zones for this, one for that, and run it more efficiently that way. And then, depending on the budget for the year, Scott's told you can only turn the boiler on in zone 1. I mean,
You put it in now, you don't have to run it. It's it's there.
Well, the thing with that being said is now all your exterior walls that are insulated, now you're insulating interior walls. So the
Right.
building would have to be used differently
Right.
with a non-heated side and a
Yeah, but
heated
you're
side.
probably not gonna lose that much heat. Because
No.
I put the mezzanine
Yeah.
there, we're anticipating that that's gonna be a drywall around the.
Yeah, but if, it's just so much nicer to pull the trucks in on heated floors, because it keeps the floors
It
dry.
dries them from underneath. too.
Yeah, you know, I'm not arguing to trying to save money, but it, you know, you're gonna kind of rework, you got a warm area, cold area, warm area.
Well, that's what,
Yeah.
I thought if you got rid of that heat.
You run the
that
heaters
mechanics-
up top, and you
Yeah.
park your truck, it melts off the top,
Oh,
and the
it just
bottom's
freezes
got
on the
big
ground.
dingleberry stuck to
Yeah.
the bottom.
But if we weren't gonna heat the parking area.
Yeah, the back
inside,
half or so, yeah.
The mechanics bay, to me, should go next to the office space. So
Flip-flop,
heated area is
yeah.
next to heated area.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's a rework of, you know,
Right.
and then do we insulate all the exterior walls and the
Well,
roof?
they should be, because
Yeah.
it's like Franklin County where the buses are. They said it doesn't get below freezing, they don't have any heat.
Yeah.
And the vehicles
Right,
are
well,
inside.
again, so when I did Franklin County with them, they were just expecting the office and the vehicle repair garage. The fact that we got them storage, they were thrilled, because they were parking under canopies and outside. And so they were just grateful, it's like, if they just had a roof on it, with no walls, they would have.
But the point of that
Yeah.
statement is, they said it didn't get below freezing.
Yes.
So,
So, well, then the other option to do is, if that's truly the case, and again, you can work different things, if you just heat this zone with radiant floor heat and cut this portion off, okay? At least there would be some, because there is gonna be some transmission of the thermal mass that will kinda, it's not as efficient if you're not heating the whole thing, but at least it would be something, and if worse came to worse, you could always get a curtain or something to help keep that in. That's another option. But again, I'm gonna let you all tell me how you would wanna go. I would still recommend put the radiant floor heat in everywhere, whether you put in 1 boiler, 2 boilers, 3 boilers. That's something you can decide after the fact, but you're never gonna come back in and put radiant floor heat in after this. Just my.
Are you not radiant floor heating the office space?
No, because those are gonna have VRFs and everything.
But
so
why
that-
wouldn't you do that too, just for warm floors? If it's
Because
office
I'm gonna,
floor.
I have to put in units anyways to do cooling for the
Yeah,
office,
air conditioning.
so I can use the VRFs to run cooling and heating in those areas.
You don't think it's beneficial to have radiant at a lesser expense?
We
than-
talked about doing that in here, and it's just, you go from hot to cold too quick.
Yeah.
You can't, you know, the radiant doesn't shut off when,
Yeah, yeah.
when you got
Oh,
an
yeah.
80-degree day in the
Yeah.
spring. You
Yes.
know, and then you
Well,
go
the
back
bigger
to
thing
it.
I noticed too is like in here, okay? So Scott's in his office, he's happy as a clam, because it's, 80 degrees in his office. The women out there saying, or whoever, and I don't want to be sexist, the receptionist is saying, oh, I'm burning up and everything. Well, at least with the VRFs, Scott can be running his heater while they're running their air conditioning. You can run them simultaneously. Don't recommend that, but what I'm trying to say is there are options with it. So we just find that, and I'm 100%, this is just iron. I've never heard a truck complain to me. Never in my life. I've heard mechanics complain to me, and I've heard office personnel complain to me. So as long as those two sections are happy, the trucks keep them at 50, 45, they're never going to complain to me. But that's why we put the VRFs in the office, just because that's a more sensitive area. So, but I will let you all direct me on however you want it to move with that, and I'll be happy to go in that direction. Next, we might as well finish up the estimate and then. Okay, so was that electrical? No, that was mechanical. So now we're down in electrical. Again, there's some things that just are the realities of life now. Bidirectional amplification, that's a fire department requirement with all the low E glazings and everything now. Almost every building fails now. So we just put it in at this point in time. Security system, we carried a nominal number of 60,000. I'm assuming you're going to have some card readers, maybe a couple cameras, but nothing really sophisticated, because I've seen that number run up to 200,000 or 300,000, which I don't get the sense that you all will be needing. Basic stuff, again, I don't think that number is that far off. Earthwork, again, next section, as you can see, that's basically about $2 million for your siting and stuff. Now, one of the things, and most people don't like to do it because they just want it done, and I would agree with them, is whether you have the contractor put the binder down and then you use your Chapter 90 money which you have to be careful, because you can't mix and match money, and you got to do certain things certain ways, and I know there's a whole rigmarole, because I don't think you can use Chapter 90 money per se on DPWs, but if it's a road or something, you can. Anyway, I will let you figure that out, but I think the best thing to do, just let the contractor do everything, because then you have a single responsibility, and then if it doesn't drain right or something, they can't come back and say, oh, well, it's because the town put down the binder course, the top coat, and it was wrong, so. And I think that's it, Scott, right? If you keep scrolling. Come on, Scott, keep
Nope,
scrolling.
you don't need a tight tank here, you got 0.
Yeah, we read that say oil water separator should be fine. The tight tank
Okay.
is usually if you're on a septic system and you can't just dump the water into the sewer. There's the numbers that we talked about. And like I said, we're about $685 a square foot now for the building. And then if you keep scrolling, those are what we're anticipating for the filed sub bids, about $5 million. And it's, running pretty much what it's supposed to be, 2.5 times for the the GC portion on that. And then the last thing was that's that you have on the back of the spreadsheet that breaks that down. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. What I'm taking away from our current conversation is remove the front sidewalk, add the fluid reels. Fuel island sounds like it is out at this point in time, except we'll run some conduits just for future, whether you put light posts there. We're all clear that the plumbing was all based on assuming we're getting a new water line down there. And I will confirm or see if I can find out what the sewer invert is, whether it's a pump or not. But I can always carry an allowance if necessary for that. And that is what I have now. So the only thing I guess is the decision on what you would like to do with the heating. I know we're going radiant floor heat. How much? You still want to stay with propane, heat pumps? Whatever you tell me.
How do you do it? Do we vote on it, take it in or out, or do we have to do it as a?
Well, right now you don't have to
extra on the
do.
meeting? How does it work?
Well, so can you go back to the estimate, or we can just look at the sheet. That's okay. Fine. Okay.
The other thing is the stone. You would ask.
All right. So right now, if I take out the fuel island, which we said was about 725, let's call it for say, we're down to $15 million. Okay. Doesn't quite get us under 20 million though, because we're at 21.6 million with soft cost and everything in there. So, but we're down at least in the 20 million there. I don't know what else we can take to take another $1 million hit off of this. I think that's going to be tough.
So what are we at?
Well, with soft cost and everything, the project cost, you're probably at around 25 on that.
So what if you looked into like the masonry or anything
If we
big like
knock down
that?
to the 4 foot and put the metal in.
Well, so
Yeah,
we're
you
probably
say what?
talking a couple $100,000 there,
That's a couple $100,000.
Yeah. Take out the side. I mean, if I took out all the
Beautiful, but-
things we talked about, we're probably talking most maybe $300,000. If we stretched it, we might be able to get 4. You're still not under 20 million. Now, you could beat up on the architect and squeeze his fees, which I'd recommend you do that. Definitely beat up on the OPM. What do you think, Scott? Neil will agree to like 1.5%?
I think so.
Okay, we get out here right up to 1.5%. If you can get the architect, then we're good, guys. We're under 20 million.
Okay, in this price.
Yes.
You talked about a meeting or two back on the current garage that they're using, the block garage. About doing some upgrading or whatever. Is this walking away and not touching this? Or is
Yeah, I think what I did is I had a few minor dollars in there to do some disconnects or cleanups or something like that, but it was very nominal
You
numbers.
talked about
5,000.
painting, you talked about,
Yeah, we did not include any of that in this,
so it's basically walking away.
You're walking away from that building.
So probably after your first plan, or the 3 first plans, we had washer and dryer hookups and.
Yes, that's still in there, yes.
But they have laundry, so why we,
Again, I put the pipes in, put a washing machine down, I take it out, I don't, it's 6 of one, a half dozen other to
I
me.
know, but I'm
Yeah.
looking for the pennies,
Yeah.
to get rid of all that stuff.
So I appreciate that, but here's what I will say about the pennies. The contractors, when they're bidding these, aren't looking at the pennies. Okay, they're looking at the big swings. Okay, You want to take the 350 out, cut the building back, and get rid of the cross aisle. That will register then me taking a washer and dryer out, because you've reduced square footage by about 2,000 square feet. And those are the things. Because again, if somebody like BWC is bidding this, their number is 17.8 million. They'll make the number work if it's close to the 18 million, and they'll bring it in.
But I'm looking for us to get a number that people are gonna say, okay, I'll vote for it at town meeting, I'll vote for it at the override. So, we can't say, well, it's gonna be 21, but maybe we can get it for 18.
Well,
Because they're gonna fund 21.
I think to your point, David, we've got to get this as low as we can, with the caveat that we have taken out whatever we can, the fluff, so to speak.
Right.
I think that's going to carry more weight with the voters. The fact that, yes, we've looked at this hard, which is what you're trying to do. I'm not
Yep.
downgrading what you're saying. And then whatever it is that we can take out, we can say, look, we had it this originally, we've got rid of this, and this is where we're at. So I don't disagree with what you're trying to do.
Well, there's another strategy to use, okay? And, because you're going to pay one way or the other, but it's a risk-free approach, okay? If you vote to spend, and I'm just going to use the number 20 million today, okay? If you go to town meeting and they approve 20 million, okay? The good news is they approve 20 million, you're paying me, you pay Scott, we go out and we bid that and stuff, and we're going to be figuring out every which way we can, checking the market. Things might have to get scaled back even more because the number is locked at 20 million. The other option is you just ask for the design money and bidding money now because of that, and I'm just going to, don't have this exact, but let's say you're looking at the $1.4 million fee, okay? You're going to spend like probably 1.2 million of that to get you through bidding, where you could go back in November, and again, you know your town better than me, so I'm not, with bid in hand. So then you're not guessing at this because all of a sudden, as I told you, like BWC might bid this or something, or somebody else is really hungry. And so where we're budgeting, say, 15, or 18 million loaded for the whole project, the project might come in at 16.5. So then in November, you ask for the 16.5, because that would give you May, June, July, August, September, release the bids, have the bids in October, so that you could walk into town meeting with because the other option is you approve the 20 million, you pay me and Scott to do, we get you through the bidding, it's over budget, you're yelling and screaming at us, and then what do? Go back to the drawing board, or how do you do that? So it's just a different kind of strategy in order to get that, but I have found that to be very successful. That's what Boxford's doing. They're going to town meeting in November with bid in hand to say, we need $15 million, $20 million, and you're no longer guessing.
I guess where I'm coming from is, right here, we're spending $225,000.
Right.
And if we don't get this to pass, it's like throwing that money away.
Mhm.
You're gonna throw it on a shelf, in a year or two, the cost of this building is gonna be higher.
Correct.
So to ask for a couple $1 million for design, it just puts more money possibly on a shelf that may or may not ever get spent.
So,
Go for the whole thing, but we gotta
Okay.
really get this thing down to
yeah.
what we need, not what everybody
Yeah,
wants,
okay.
and what's the greatest thing in the world.
So right now, you see I'm carrying a 5% contingency of about $900,000 there, okay? We may spend that, we may not spend that. Chances are we're gonna spend some of that, okay? Scott and I are working on Hudson right now. We're doing extremely well. We got out of the ground, I think, what do we have, $20,000 hit or something in the ground like that, and we had carried like $1 million contingency. They're happier than a clam now, because what they're doing is they're buying their salt storage, they're buying their fuel island, they're buying their vehicle canopy and everything. In this case, what I would do, and Scott, it's your world, I know you need salt and everything. We carry the salt storage as an as a unit price. We bid it, we come in, it's great, everything's going fine, we buy it at the end, because maybe we're not buying the hard structure now, maybe now we're buying the fabric structure, but at least you have a salt storage shed and you have a new garage or something. This is a number that I can't tell you how much or how little of that's going to go. Just because I took borings and everything, there could be a fuel tank sitting under the salt storage shed that all of a sudden we have contaminated soils that we're not expecting. Don't know. I mean, but, so in theory, this number has dropped now, below 20 million because we're carrying a $1 million contingency. Because if I'm at 25 and I deduct that, now I'm at 19.5. But I would not go in without some type of contingency. Now, maybe you guys are gutsy and say, let's only carry a $500,000 contingency. It could be good enough. I don't know. I mean, and I know Scott and Neil will chime in on what they think. But most jobs that I see of this level and stuff are carrying 10% contingencies. I'm fairly comfortable in saying that a 5% contingency is adequate because we've done enough of these DPWs. And I don't think you have a lot of risk with your soils. Not a guarantee, but your site is pretty clean right now.
I guess the number is a catch-22. Obviously, trying to save pennies where we can is a big thing.
Yes.
But if you're going out to buy a brand new truck and it's $50,000 and we're selling it to our wives, but for $51,000 we can get power windows, power locks, four-wheel drive. Why did we spend $50 for
Right.
a truck we can't
Well,
really use,
Right.
but for a little bit more, we've got all these options. So if we tell the town, listen, we can get washer and dryers, we can heat the whole building. And I'm a big numbers guy, but when they say, we can heat the whole building, we can do all of this for a little bit more, I think that's a bigger, we don't want to back ourselves into a library roof.
No, and I agree with that.
Or an
I
elementary
can,
school.
I can go
Right.
along with putting the
Tubing, yeah.
tubing in the
Yep,
floor.
Yep,
But maybe let's not buy the boilers.
yeah, no, for sure, yeah.
And then there'll be one less propane.
I mean, the
tank or
difference in the
something.
two boilers for sizing is gonna be
No.
pennies.
And when you heat that whole mass, it's
And
gonna
once the mass is
run
heated, it
itself.
stays.
Well, so-
You're heating it at a different.
So now let's back this up. So all the other DPWs I had, okay, yours by far is not the worst I've seen. Whitman has been worse. I've seen things collapsing. The chicken coop that I'm literally talking about, but Berlin was in, you could see air and everything. It was literally a chicken coop, and that's what. If I were to sell this to the town, the first thing I would do is tell you, what does the DPW do? Obviously, you plow the roads, okay? But what else do you? You probably mow the athletic fields and you do the facilities and you help out and all that. Most of the town thinks all you do is plow roads. They think you do nothing else in the town. That's what I want to educate them on. If I were to go to town meeting and show a photo, I would show a photo of your bathroom, okay? That bathroom in there, and I would start with the presentation there. All of you have come, this is what we are asking our people, because most people are offended by the bathroom situations. They don't care about the trucks, they don't care about the cracks in the building, because then all you have to ask yourself is, would you want your husband, wife, son, daughter, or something working in these kinds of conditions? And the answer is no. What happens if one of the guys comes back, falls in a trench, covered with mud and stuff? He can't even clean himself. I mean, he can get in his truck, drive, get the inside of the truck dirty, but when he gets out, is he going to get into his private vehicle covered with mud, or are you going to sit there and hose him off outside, like one of the trucks and stuff? I think that just selling the personnel thing and how you can attract and keep personnel, I think. Then you go into the nitty-gritty, so hit them emotionally first, then go into the facts and say, we've cut everything out of it. We've cut this out, we've cut that out. Scott, if you can go back to the getting rid of the cross out. Because to me, if you went back here and I would show this, this would be the optimum plan, to have this. However, go next slide. This is what Boxford did. They said, we got rid of every square inch of the building that we could honestly get rid of.
Okay,
This
go
doesn't cripple you.
Can we stop there for
Sure.
a second? I agree with putting that other, maybe go to the next slide where,
The back one, yeah, go back. You're talking about floor plan, right?
that one.
Yes, one, yeah.
Okay. I like that better, but my question is that office down to what we really need?
Yes. Okay. The bathrooms are huge compared to what you have now. And the
Yeah.
reason being is that's calculated.
state code.
State code.
No, I'm not complaining about bathrooms, I'm saying
Yeah.
office.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
office is everything you need. So I have an IT closet storage, you have 2 admin people, director's office, conference room, and flat files. This is all the program you have. I mean, you're not doing
But how many
anything.
people do we have in there?
Huh?
How many employees?
4, 6, 7 people.
You got 7 people in your office now, Scott?
Well, you've got supervisors that.
6.
They-
Yeah.
But I'm talking, is it like at UMass to give you a cubicle? And
Right.
how much, you're trying to cut down square footage.
Well, 4 of those are cubicles, right?
4, these are the supervisors' cubicles and stuff, so they can work.
But, I'm trying to cut
Right,
square footage.
actually.
Is there a way that?
Again, if I cut off, 5 feet of this, it's not gonna really move the needle. Because this is,
Yeah, but you keep saying that, but
You're still gonna have the same amount
Well,
of
no,
stuff.
so
at $700 a
Soft
square foot.
okay, and I agree. But here's what it's kind of like, and I like to use the analogy of a deck, okay? Your deck is gonna cost you $25 a square foot, okay? So the wife comes, and I'm, again, not trying to be sexist, the wife says, well, we gotta get that out. So let's not do the 8-foot deck, let's only put the 6-foot deck in, because I calculated and I saved, $1,000 on the deck. Well, you really didn't save that
Still
much,
need 2
because I
foot
buy
instead of
the
18,
8-foot 2x4 and I cut it, okay? I'm bringing a crane out to swing steel, okay? Whether they're swinging a 20-foot piece or an 18-foot piece, it's still the same. I'm bringing concrete. This is what I'm saying, unless you're talking large chunks of square footage, like 2,000 or 3,000 square feet, me cutting 100 square feet off of it, yes, it calculates, but it actually drives the cost up because I'm still paying for that crane to swing that steel. Now he's only swinging it on 20,000 rather than 23,000 square feet, but I've paid him for the day. That's why I just want to be very careful that everybody
Also,
says.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of that office costs a lot more than anything else, mostly because of your soft costs, your appliances, your toilets, your plumbing.
This
And
is
you have
just,
to have
this is
90%
intense.
of it.
You've got more, higher lighting levels, higher mechanical levels, higher plumbing levels, higher finishes. It is just, because, to answer your question, if I could get rid of all of this office, you could definitely move the needle, okay? Then you have to ask yourself, well, can we put the people anywhere else? Can they go town hall or something like that? Don't think that's a good, but you will be building these bathrooms and that break room as a minimum. So. And again, Dan, I'm not arguing with you, I'm just trying to show you that, run this exercise 1,000 ways.
I'm only arguing the point to
Yep.
get the price down.
Okay.
That's the only.
And I have to agree with Dave, there's a lot of retirees in Hadley.
Mhm.
And this isn't the only thing going on. You got this, then they want the ambulance,
Mhm.
pickleball courts, all these things. It's gonna raise taxes a lot.
So,
So
Scott,
we could cut off, leave the bathrooms there, and I'm going to an extreme.
Mhm.
Take all that office space out, wipe it off, and put the office space in the white barn where the mechanics are, renovate that. You could probably save 25% at least for renovation, have the offices in the other building.
That
which I-
change of use over there, you have the sprinkler and everything, right, because we talked about that before.
It'd still be less than $750 a square foot. I'm looking for
yeah.
options. That's all.
Well, so go back to the next slide. There. This
I know
is
it's
what.
not ideal what you want, Scott.
Well,
This-
I'm just saying that, you be careful, but we talked about this, that
Well-
you touch that garage.
Here's what I'm gonna say, and this is where now you can push back on Scott. And Scott, I know you've been very, flexible on this. You cut this travel aisle out, you can turn and say, this is all required by code and personnel. Can't do anything about this. We need this to service our vehicles. We have this many trucks, so all of our trucks, and this gives us, 2 or 3 spare spaces or something. By having this aisle here, is it nicer the other aisle? Absolutely. But as you can see, you take the plows off these trucks, you could still squeeze, lawnmowers, trailers, other trucks there. That's why we say keep the doors, but just get rid of the thing. Now I know what Scott wants to do is pull the truck in, drop his plow there so they can. Well, guess what, Scott? You get to do that during the winter months when you need the plows. The summer months, they go over to the other building, and that's where the plows move. Is it an inconvenience that you have to shift them around? Sure. You turn around and turn you with this building, you're now down to 21,000 square feet. You're 3 times larger than the existing building, not like 3 1/4 or 3 1/2, because you're about 8,000. You could sell this building and feel very comfortable, because again, ran this exercise with Boxford. we're down to this. They cut that aisle out. Now, they happen to only go with one garage bay, but that's a whole different story. But I'm saying, tell me now in this plan where there's any fluff.
But you're saying that's only like $300,000.
I understand that. But if you're talking about perception, this is perception. Because if you go back to the other plan, Scott?
Perception is the amount of money that they're going to have to pay.
Right.
That's got nothing, the building could be this big or this big, but the perception is going to be 20 million whatever dollars.
Right.
That's exactly right.
So, and I appreciate that, but there is a point in time that you could just build something that just, you're gonna outgrow in the first 3 days.
Well, right, and we don't want to make mistakes. And
Right.
we don't want to be so cheap that, everybody's kicking themselves later, or Gary keeps kicking me until I die.
And he's not even gonna put you in that plot because he,
I know. The cemetery plots are going up.
By now.
No, plots aren't going up, costs are going up.
But, it's just,
What's the
we
magic
got to be able
number?
to sell it to the townspeople.
But I certainly want to be as financially responsible as we can. And to your point, I want to avoid what happened with the elementary school, which, there was a lot that was cut off and cut and cut. And then you get in there and there's a lot that had to be,
15
all of a
years
sudden-
later, you're putting air conditioning in every room.
Right, and
So-
we're still paying for, upgrades, but there was a lot of space that was cut out that certainly could have been put to use.
Let's talk about perception and the stone facade. Would you say that the difference in between
Couple
wood and
hundred,
metal?
About 150,000.
So 150,000 is $150,000.
I have no
I'd
problem
rather
getting
that
rid
than
of
the space.
I have
I'd
no
rather
problem
the
getting rid of
space
the
than
stone.
Yeah.
than
Well, exactly,
stone.
take
Yeah.
that out, because 150 is 150.
Right. No, I have no
Right.
issue with that.
Yeah,
It
And the
looks
truck
great
lift.
with the stone, but
it can still look good.
It would match the
We need
style of the
functional.
North Hadley Hall.
Right.
Yeah.
North Hadley,
Fire
Fire Department.
Yeah.
In the truck lift, we go to a lot of truck garages. None of them have lift because they said, what are you gonna use it for?
You lift the trucks up and work underneath them.
Big trucks?
Yes. I called over the Allstates like you had
Yeah,
asked me.
yeah.
And I talked to the mechanic.
Yeah.
And he said, the problem with their truck lift is it doesn't have the capacity to lift up the dump trucks. That's why they don't use it on dump trucks. They lift up the tractors because they can lift it.
Oh.
And they propose to buy a new one, and they're in the works of figuring out what they want to replace it with. They want the lift.
Okay. Because the places we go, none of them have a truck lift. They use the big jacks to lift them up.
So let me ask you this question, and again, Scott, it's your operations. What if we carry the bridge crane as a unit price? That's $75,000 with markup, call it $100,000. Is the 10-ton bridge crane that necessary? The only one I know I've ever put a bridge crane in is Montague. Everybody else.
We use our crane right now, that one that we have in their building, so.
Mhm. Well, I'm just throwing that out. I'm
Yeah,
just
I don't
How much is
think
the-
it's right
the
to
truck
cut the
lift, the big
mechanics area.
about 65,000. Or do you put that as an aftermarket? See, the only thing you have to be careful about that is,
Mounting.
if you need the trenches for the scissors to go in, we have to cast that. If you just do a 4-post, we can just set it on later. And anyway, so
What about leaving the stone or the brick like in the front elevation and maybe the side and take it off the back?
Just take it off everywhere,
Take it off everywhere.
moving forward on it.
I'm more worried about efficiency and space than I am.
Exactly, we don't need it to be pretty.
I don't want my kids later going, goddamn old man, put the place we're already adding on to it, or we're parking shit.
no, we'll leave
outside
that up to
again."
the feds to do that, taxes to, because I was driving here and I heard, what is it? The average American now, everybody in America, in order to pay off our $37 trillion debt, is $360,000 a person. So you're going to have to work an extra day to pay your share,
I'll do it. I'll cover it tomorrow.
Anyway, so
Yeah, we're talking about going 4 feet.
So gentlemen,
Yeah.
so I guess the question is, I know everybody says the lowest number possible. What is palatable? Because if you say, we're going to barely be able to get 20 million and we have to be at 19,999, I'm just throwing that out. Town comes back to say 19.999, and then Scott and we may have to revisit this again, and I say, Scott, we got it passed, but guess what? You're only getting one mechanics bay, not two. You're only getting you know, everybody's going to be in your office with you and nobody gets a cubicle. I mean, I'm just trying to say, there's the other option is you design to a price, because that's what Hudson had us do. We designed to a price.
We can't make this so small that there's no room for the, I mean, North Hadley Fire Station, we built that, got it all done. They changed the code where they couldn't go into the rooms
Right.
with their gear on. So we
Right.
had to build a locker. So that took up basically a storage spot for a boat or something like that out of the bay. That was,
Right.
I mean, you're 90% done.
I hear you.
And this stuff like this is coming, you know, we got rid of our sweeper because we switched to salt. We don't have to do it. Well, now they've got this whole MS4 thing where you've got to start sweeping so many, you know,
Right.
miles of road and stuff like that. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
10 years down the road, 5 years down the road, you're gonna be buying a sweeper
Yeah.
instead of pirates.
So Jerry, I've sat through all these town meetings, heard all these arguments, and been there, done that, and I appreciate it's town citizen. Okay, you either go in there and say, look, we have scraped everything out of this, we pulled the masonry out, we did this. The number is $21 million. That's what it is. You either vote it up or you vote it down. Obviously, it's part of education and stuff. The other thing is, because if we were guessing and saying that 19.5 is the magic number, and we get that approved through town meeting, and then all of a sudden I'm telling you, Scott, guess what? You're only getting one mechanics bay. Guess what? You're not getting this, you're not getting that. That's the other option. So are you building for the next 50 years within reason? Again, you're not going crazy, or are we trying to build to a number? And I don't know your town, so I can't answer that question.
I think we need to build to the reality that this is the minimum that the town can get along with. And build it for today and for the future within reason. And, you know, I don't think, if we knew the number, we'd be all over you.
Right.
We don't.
Okay.
The sad thing is, we can't build it for $10 million,
That's correct.
what we're looking for.
Pre-pandemic, you could have.
You know.
Right.
And today is the cheapest we're ever gonna be
Yes.
able to build that building.
Right.
And they're not gonna go for another million to do more work and then come back with the price.
No,
Right.
and then every
I don't
year you
think-
wanna add
No.
a crane or a lift or a this or a
So-
heating system, it's.
Then I would say pull the aisle out. And the only reason, because I'm now going to play devil's advocate. But what are you doing with your existing building? You're keeping that 7,000 square foot, and you're telling me you can't pull a lousy 2,000 square feet out of it? Is it optimum? No. But the reality is, that will be an argument somebody will say. Because the first thing they're going to say, are you demoing the other
I
building?
agree.
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say pull the aisle out then, because then at least you can say in good faith. And I agree with you. Personally, we would probably build it, you know, but we're not a collective of a town mentality. We're just individuals, and we would. And by the way, when you were mentioning the truck, can you even get trucks with crank-up windows anymore? I don't think they make.
I don't know.
I think
But,
that's.
you know, I mean, you could get it so stripped, it's
Right.
like for just a
But
little
you
bit more.
still have a power window. I don't think you can buy
For
crank
just a
windows
little bit
anymore.
more, we have something we can
Special
sell.
order.
Special order, exactly.
Yeah, it costs more.
So I mean,
Yeah.
do we pull the aisle?
Yeah.
Scott, what do you think about that?
I'll say, like, I've been talking to Gary about this. He says he doesn't want his grandkids put an addition on this building. You're not gonna be able to put an addition on for $300,000.
You're correct.
I would rather keep the aisle and not do the stone and the
Fine.
granite. Those are things
Yeah,
people are
like,
gonna look
no problem
at.
getting rid of the stone.
You know, why do we need all the stone? Why do we need granite that we're gonna plow into when it's difficult to plow around?
So I'll limit the granite to just around
yeah.
the building, so,
It's a safety,
okay,
it makes
fine,
sense.
it's a
yeah.
safety.
Cape Cod everywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't even put Cape Cod, just let the grass and you plow
Oh,
up the
just,
grass
yeah.
and then you replant the grass when you need to.
Oh, these guys are good with the plows.
Yeah.
They never do that?
No
Okay,
grass.
great, excellent. So, all right.
Get rid of the stone around the building.
Yep.
Yeah, except for 4 feet.
Leave
Right.
leave the middle bay in, fuel island is out.
Yep.
Because you were saying originally the stone was gonna be 200, I thought.
No, it's like 398 total.
But it was mine, now we gotta add in the panels.
We gotta put panels.
You know, so it's a,
Yeah,
yeah.
so,
It's a half a wash.
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
say.
it's about half
Yeah.
a wash, yeah.
Yeah. And we definitely can't build to a number, because that's
No,
gonna be
you
the
have to build.
unknown. The unknown is what we're trying to avoid here, so that townspeople know this is what they're getting for their money. If we say, well, we
Scott,
want
can
20
you,
million out of you, but we don't
can
know
you
what
go
we're gonna
pull up
get
the
for it,
spreadsheet?
they're not gonna go for that.
yeah, can you put it up?
Yep.
Okay, great. So let's do this.
I started doing a little bit.
Excellent, okay, so granite curbing, you cut that in half. So take the 2,500 and make it like 1,000 square feet. Okay, and then scroll down to equipment. No, you gotta go back up.
And then the new water line to
Okay.
take care of this.
So I
So
took
take
this
the
out.
fuel line and you took that out.
Fluid reels, how much do you want for that?
I'll just work another day, Dave.
55,000, that's really 55.
But that's,
Okay.
that's gotta happen before this building is built, right?
Right.
Okay, so now let's go. up
That's
to
gonna happen
masonry.
almost
It should
eventually
happen
anyways.
Anyways.
Well, I agree.
Yeah.
You know,
But, you know, are people
Okay,
gonna
yep, yep.
affiliate it with this because?
So, put the masonry veneer, take that down to about 3,000 square feet. Okay, and let's go up to the top or bottom and see what our grand total is now.
12 million.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
A didn't add to B.
Okay, no, go all the way to the top because we need soft cost. Okay, there you are. We're at 20 million now.
And that's, you
There's some
took out
change.
the pumps, the.
That's without the fuel island, we
Wow.
took the masonry out, we took the granite out.
We gotta keep
this-
in mind the water service.
The water surface island, that's a different
Water,
project.
yeah.
That's not even
yeah.
in this.
Separate? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And what did you say was
Did you
the
add the
cost of
fluid?
putting the cisterns in?
What's that?
No,
It's,
no cisterns.
Well, the fire?
well, if we have to put a
get
fire
the-
pump in and, you know, because we'll need like
150.
50,000 gallons of, you know, water under the slab and everything, with the pump and everything. You're talking about $150,000 for that.
Okay, because I mean, that's, if somebody quit, like Randy says, if somebody questions that job on what is it for this, then you say, you can do it, not do it, but it's gonna add.
Well, I think Scott
is
said it
gonna
would
add
be
to
about
it.
800,000 to bring the water line. And do you really want to invest 150,000 in something that you're going to do anyways, whether you do it
Eventually,
today or
right.
tomorrow? So
Did you add the fluid?
I did add the
Reels
fluid
in there?
reel, yeah. So let me go to, so we need to get rid of $300,000.
and that was my question. With your experience,
Mhm.
two of you guys, on the whole project, is there anything somewhere in, I don't
Yeah,
know.
so let's go back up to the top.
You gotta beat up the
We'll
architect.
pull this,
Yeah,
we'll pull
yeah.
commissioning out, put it
Huh?
below the line, so we're
What's
not.
that?
This is a small thing, but we can pull commissioning out, put it below the line, so you're not.
Yeah, it doesn't
getting
matter, but
marked
let's go
up,
back
it's
up to the
minor
top
stuff.
now. So,
Yeah, we're keeping
so
the
Scott,
permanent salt shed, right?
Scott, go, and if you click on this line item, it's a cell right there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, change that .08 to .07. And then I'm
That's a
gonna
hard
force you to
bargain.
change
Yeah.
to .4, not
Okay.
Go to my
.45.
truck and call my boss, see what we can do.
So even if you squeeze the architect and the OPM, we're still looking at, you know. And understand, this includes, let's look
There
at.
you go, Greg.
900,000.
What's that?
I made you 0.5. And I'm not coming back.
Sold.
Okay, so now, so gentlemen, here's what I'm gonna say. We are to scroll down just a little bit, Scott. I wanna see the top of the stuff, I'm sorry, the whole yellow, okay. Right now, we are carrying $850,000 for contingency. If you went in at 20.2, you know, $20,200,000, you tell everybody there's an $800,000 contingency in there, which means the goal would be to bring this in at 19.5 project cost, all in. But we need the $1 million contingency, let's just call it that we will return to the town. Everybody's got to understand the contingency.
Yeah, most people do.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is, if you went in at 19.5 and said, we want $1 million contingency on it, that we will return to the town. Now, I don't know how they trust you or not, because some of the towns I work in, you give them $1 million contingency, they're gonna spend
They're
that.
gonna spend it all for sure.
Yes. On the other hand, you could say that the contingency can only be spent with select board and FinCom's approval. It's onerous for you to have to go through that process, but right now, the way I'm seeing these numbers.
What's the percentage on, you use half of it usually on most projects, or quarter?
Well, yeah, I have two things. Some of the towns, they have it, they spend it. They'll buy everything. You'll get new lifts, you'll get everything. You know, if you're, want to do it, yeah, you probably spend, of that 800, what are we on, Scott, on ours? We had $1 million on Hudson. We've only spent like $30,000-$50,000 of
Very
it.
little, yeah, I was gonna
I
pull
mean,
it up, but not much.
It's literally, I mean, we're down to say it's 100,000 of that number. So I would either go in at 19.5 with the $1 million contingency, or at least go in like 20.2, whatever you think.
Be upfront with them. We're not gonna tell them, if
Yeah.
we tell them 19.5 with a contingency, they're gonna hear 19.5.
Yeah, exactly, I
Right,
understand, I get that. So,
Give them the number, give them.
but I think if you went in at 20.5, I think you could do the project, based on what we've talked about. And again, let's just throw some minor caveats on, who knows what's gonna happen with these tariffs, up, down, in between. We could be at a world war, we could be at peace and everything, and inflation drops 300. Who thought eggs would be, what, $12 a dozen now?
Yeah. And the reality is too, today we decide on this number, and by the time town meeting
Right,
comes,
it could be
we got
almost-
tariffs everywhere and prices are through the roof, and we just can't do it.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to play it on the safe side, you'd go for 21, but I'd call it 20.75. Just
Keep it
to,
under that.
you keep it and work with that. If you want to tighten it up, go in at 20.5. I think unless you somehow break out that contingency in a separate line item, 20.5 is what you're going to have to go in at best.
What kind of cars did you used to sell?
I got the feeling of that a little earlier.
No, I mean, so what I always say, because I appreciate what you all are saying, there's a lot of towns that, look, I make my money during design. I love designing, we'll design, and people go, well, what happens if the project died? I've made my money during design. But I'm to the point in my career, in my life, and you can ask Scott, because what I bill you once a year or something, and you're always yelling at me because I don't send invoices in. I'm comfortable. It does me no good just to design. I've done enough of these exercises. I want to get your building built for you. So I'm not trying to be the car salesman that you're suggesting. I've just seen this happen with all these other towns. And there's nothing more infuriating when a town pays the money to have designers do it and stuff, and they said, we just pissed away $1.5 million and we got what for it? So it's in my best interest to help you get your building built.
Yeah.
And I might have a little different style than other people do, but that's why I'm saying I would have open house, I would spring the money, spend a couple $100, put hot dogs and stuff, have it on soccer day and stuff, run them down, put the photos on the web page and stuff of the bathrooms and stuff, and get them emotionally engaged in this. But first of all, I need to know what Scott does, because all Scott does is he's the DPW, he plows the road. He sits around for the rest of the year and does nothing and hopes that it snows so he could plow. And I know that's not what you do, Scott, but that's what most
They pick
people
up some
think.
dead animals.
So, but seriously, but isn't that what everybody thinks the DPW does? They don't understand what the other
They're
things.
pretty savvy in this town.
Yeah, I think so, between the cemeteries and the
People realize
fields
what's
and-
going on.
But it still is an educational thing.
Right,
Yeah,
for
so
sure.
That has to be
Yeah,
done.
for sure.
Because
I think it's more educational. A lot of people, you're doing it at home and it's not costing you this kind of crazy money.
Mhm.
A lot of people don't understand prevailing wage.
Right.
What contractors are coming in and charging per hour, what, the rates are for that. You call a plumber at your house and you might get
Right.
one for $50, $60 an hour, whereas,
Give me their number.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
well, the guy's not licensed or insured. And that's what people think, it's like, when you start seeing you look at these bills, it's like, what? This much for that guy, and he came with a helper for, 3/4 of that? But that's what
Yes.
you have to pay, and that's what,
In
if you
Massachusetts.
did this without prevailing wage, we'd be way underneath that.
Well, so and it's interesting you mentioned that, because we went to consider doing the DPW in Nashua, New Hampshire, because that's literally like 20 minutes from our office. And what was amazing about that is they just built their 20,000 square foot admin building and stuff. And I said, what did this cost you? They go, $10 million. And this was only like 3 years ago or something. I'm going, how the hell did you build this for $10 million? Because I take it right over the line into Pepperell, and it would have been a $20 million building. And it's absolutely prevailing wage, all the things and stuff. And I know this all works because there's also, which you probably don't know, there's a Fed thing, a 179D tax thing. I could get a tax write-off from you guys, thank you very much. Because you're a nonprofit, they want us to build energy efficient buildings so that I
Yeah,
can
they
get
just
per
changed
square.
that now, so
And
you guys can get
Yeah,
the
so I
rebates
get
and
that
stuff.
tax write-off. And when we do these filings and stuff, they're incredibly impressed because they go, you're the only state that has certified payrolls, because that's one of the requirements to submit on it. And it's like, yeah, so yes, Massachusetts is expensive to live and build in. So there's nothing I can do about that part. So,
Well, I mean, just the code on, there's
Yeah.
building codes and stuff. I mean, they wonder why there's no
Yeah.
affordable housing in Massachusetts, because they priced it right out of the.
But Jim, if you were to ask me right now, whatever you may think.
Randy.
No, but I'm saying whether you think I'm a car salesman.
I'm just
is
pulling you
I
back.
would do 20.750, and that's the number I would go in. That gives you enough room that you can wiggle if you need to, put in some things or not put in some things. That gives you enough contingency, because even if we have to cut the contingency down to, say, 600,000 or something, we should be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't, as far as the contingency goes, I feel comfortable that everything's in there that we need. I can't see adding something in the end that is not on there.
Really, Scott, have you ever seen that?
I mean, whereas if you start cutting out, salt sheds and all that stuff, you're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
be
but
stuck without
there'll be a
something.
screw up in design, and all of a sudden, there's more money that, because they got their fine print that,
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
we know it happens.
And look, and when we were, if you remember when we interviewed, we said our change orders come in around 3% or less. And of that, you might tag me for 1%, 0.5% of that, because you're right, we are going to miss a receptacle, we're going to miss this, we're going to miss that. But feel pretty comfortable just because we do enough of these and we're running them through every day. But that would, if you were asking me right now what the number would be, and then I think you're going to take it to the selectmen or select board next week.
Yes.
And I don't know what
That's the
FinCom,
goal.
you're on FinCom, right? Isn't someone on FinCom? You're on FinCom, yeah. What do you think FinCom's going to say about it? Way too much.
I know what one person's gonna say.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the reality of some of the numbers that have been floating out there have prepared some people.
I've heard 30 out
Yeah,
there.
right,
That's why they.
Yeah, it's been 30 in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Is your committee, finance, going to be at the selectmen's meeting for this
I think there'll be
presentation?
representation there.
Probably not. I don't know.
We don't have a joint meeting set up, if that's what you're asking.
Next Wednesday's
Are you on FinCom
rather
as well?
busy
No,
meeting.
select board.
Okay.
So is it joint meeting between this group and your group, or not?
Well, I asked at our last meeting to get a spot on the agenda for this committee to present. So whoever comes, I'm assuming it's gonna be Jimmy. I don't know if anybody else is gonna be there. But
Jimmy's gonna be at that meeting for like 3 different topics that I
Yeah.
know of right now.
Everybody's entitled to
Careful how
come.
you ask.
But so, I know I guess you're gonna be doing a school next year or something, like this,
No.
you're not
No.
doing,
No.
because usually what happens is the schools follow the next year,
No,
so
we-
you gotta get the DPW in the
No,
year before.
We're good on schools.
Okay. Anything else? So you said the ambulance service?
There's some various changes to the school, but they were looking to put in a geothermal system.
Okay.
And one company gave them a price on a geothermal system that was like, well, this is really good. Another company came in, did a little bit different study, and the geothermal price went out of sight.
Yep.
So I don't know what they're gonna do.
Okay. But-
Supper time, Wally? Supper time?
Yep, going on vacation.
So, but anyway, so does 20.75 sound palatable, unpalatable?
The board is certainly has a division in it on this anyway, but again, nobody's really seen some of these numbers. We've looked at buildings that we've had before, pre-pandemic numbers. Certainly, we've looked at some costs afterwards. I think that the $20 million, because there's been some couching already, that, this is gonna be 20.3, 20.75. It's not gonna shock anybody, but the big question is whether or not it will.
Well,
what does it mean to the tax rate?
Yeah.
What's the payoff? How much is it gonna cost the average homeowner per thousand?
See you, Wally.
That's a question I'd like to ask the treasurer,
Right.
now that we have a more firm
Yeah.
number.
Then the other question is, does the FinCom, and I'll ask you the same thing for the select board, do they think you need a new DPW?
Well, there's some
Everybody
people who
knows.
would say you can park all the vehicles outside all the time, and all you're really doing is building a very expensive cover over them. Other people say, you look at we've been talking about this since the 80s, and you've got folks working out of trailers, and, you look at the bathroom and the condition of everything, is that really how you want to keep our equipment? Others will say that the cost of replacing equipment is so darn high. I personally am a big advocate of the truck wash, because we're, if we can save some of that capital expense that's just being eaten up by
Salt.
pre-treatment.
Well, the life expectancy on equipment increases about 3 to 5 years with the indoor storage and everything, whether it's heated or not.
Your next truck will be in about 25 years.
Yeah.
So if indoor storage buys 3 to 5,
Yes.
is there any research on what a truck wash buys it?
No. So this is all, so we've looked at, because everybody asked me the question, what does this do? So there's the Weston and Sampson studies that they did, and then the state of Iowa did a big study, I think back in the early 2010s or something like that, of what, can happen with this storage. It's kind of a soft and squishy thing, because it's not like you can say, yeah, look at the tread, it wears out, and after the tread, these are just the numbers I've seen, but there's nothing scientific other than this is what I've researched, and that's the best I can find. 3 to 5 years.
So that's for indoor storage.
Yes.
Anything on truck wash?
No, I have not seen.
Obviously
that's
it would have
gotta
to
be-
be in an area that uses salt.
Okay.
You would think that would add to it.
That's got to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just common sense.
Well, yeah, but the truck wash is coming whether you guys want it or not.
Oh, yeah.
Because it may be tomorrow, it may be next week, it may be a year from now. DEP is going to one day, especially since you're sitting next to the nice, beautiful river view, saying, we are mandating you now, or we will shut your operations down. And you are going to build, and you may end up spending $500,000 to $1 million just building a truck wash sitting in the middle of nowhere, just because the DEP and everybody's coming and finding you and stuff. And that's when you will pay the $1 million, because you'll be forced to build.
Right.
In addition to the increase in longevity
Yes.
of the millions of dollars of equipment that we have sitting over there that is used for treating snow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so what do you need from me, Jim? Obviously, we can clean up the plans.
Yeah.
We're keeping the aisle, right? So I'll get rid of the
Yeah.
small plans.
Clean up the plans and get me the presentation.
Yes, I can
Okay.
do that.
Pictures of the metal.
And
stone.
especially pictures of the building without the stone on it.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
The conceptual view there. And for now, that's probably enough.
Okay.
And I'm gonna try to get on the selectmen's agenda for next week, which I think I should be on.
You are.
And it's on Zoom, so if you wanted to watch that, you could. You could
Okay.
zoom into, you could come in, you could dial into that.
Okay.
And then, depending how that goes, it's gonna be getting into the education and stuff like that. I'm not sure when we wanna have another meeting. That might be best chosen after the select board meeting next week.
Okay. So, and then what else do you see us doing for you between, obviously we can support you on town meeting presentations. Do you want us to attend town meeting and do a presentation or not?
I honestly, I would say we would like you to attend town meeting and be able to answer questions.
Okay.
But the presentation should be done by this committee.
Okay.
Because when outsiders try to present, it normally doesn't go so well.
That's fine.
Car salesman.
Yeah. They want to hear it from townspeople.
Okay, that's perfectly fine with me.
So, when's your selectmen meeting?
19th.
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
19th.
Okay, so after that one, I assume there's gonna be feedback from the full board. And then would we be coming back to Greg to make any adjustments, or what's the next step after that? What do you think?
I kind of doubt that there'd be enough time to look at it too closely, David. So my guess is that the select board will either make a decision to put a article on the warrant, or at least a placeholder for an article on the warrant. And then from there, we'd have to decide what we would need to, I mean, then we would need the money, the numbers, and I mean, that's really all we would need, would be the numbers for the article.
Should you guys have copies of these plans, so, in your email, so you guys can look at it ahead
They're
of time?
they're gonna get them to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you get Jimmy, then you can forward them to.
I would say send the plans, send the rendering, would not send the estimate.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Because I guarantee you, everybody will go to that estimate and say, wait a minute, I can buy the toilet for $30 at Home
Yeah.
Depot.
The other thing,
Glacier
Jimmy,
Bay.
yeah,
Just the.
The plans and the renderings, yeah.
renderings and,
Have the renderings to
one
show the
plan
select
that we're
board.
gonna go with.
Okay.
because the select board meets over there, we've got a big screen also, so that he can put that stuff on the screen, the renderings.
Just shrink it so it looks like a really small building.
No, you wanna make it look like a really big
Yeah,
building,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're getting a really big building for this money.
For that big
We're
price.
cutting the aisle, right?
Pardon?
No,
No.
No,
No.
not cutting the aisle.
No.
Just to make sure that we're clear on what
Right.
plan he's gonna
yeah,
send us.
you know, he wrote everything down, what he's gonna,
Yes.
Inexpensive money spent for the size.
yeah.
All right, and then I will wait. If we regroup and stuff, which we can do virtual, in person or not, just want to give you a heads up that I will be out in the middle of March. So I'm taking off 10 days. So, just, huh?
You'll let you.
Thank you. So,
Just-
we haven't done it for 8 years, so anyway.
Just answer your phone on the third day on your vacation.
Well, you know, you laugh because we're going to go see my son in Japan, okay? And the last time I traveled with my son in Japan, I was on the phone because the people were still saying, so yes, I will be in contact. I will have email. Email will be the easiest way. Cannot guarantee, though you might be impressed if I, contact you at like 2 in the morning or something.
Wow, this guy's staying up late.
Yeah, exactly.
Impressed.
Yeah, I've been in Taiwan and tried to get a call in the United States, and it is inconvenient because it's exactly 12 hours behind.
Yes. So,
Go ahead, whatever.
well, thank you. I mean, you guys have been great, working with, and I look forward to trying to get this across the line. Because yes, we'd like to get it built too.
So do we need to set up another date, Jim, right now, or should we wait?
Probably
Let's
wait.
wait until next week and see how it comes out with the selectmen, and then, I'm gonna guess we're probably gonna wanna, well, let's see, on phone.
Greg, what's the office square footage, office area?
That's about, I want to say about 5,000.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say 5 to
Let's
6,
see.
yeah.
So the selectmen's under 19.
Because if you scroll up to the,
I would guess.
No,
if
to
we
the,
try to do
on
another
the
meeting, it'd be
estimate.
something like
Yeah.
that for
go
us
to
the-
acoustical ceilings. Oh, no, go to the epoxy floor. Go to Division 9.
I'll just put down tentatively 3.
Yeah, there it is. So
Five.
it is epoxy floor, like 5,200
With a
square
question
feet.
mark next meeting.
Yeah. You got 5,500.
Yeah, but that's because that's
ACT,
waste, but 52 is
Okay.
closer to.
Yeah.
Big house.
Big house, yes.
And then something, yeah, that might be, okay.
And then, Jim, the only other thing I would suggest to the committee is I assume you're going to do the education campaign now.
Yes.
Because you guys are going to be working hot and heavy between March, April, and.
Well, we did do an open house. So
Okay.
it
How
may-
was it
It
successful?
may make sense
It
to do
was.
it again with the, with the impending article.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah,
I
now that
think.
we've got something to show them,
Yep,
that would be good to do in like, probably in
Most,
April.
April, when it's warmer
A little
weather.
bit
Yeah.
warmer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And when's your soccer season start?
I see the fall.
Oh, yeah.
Fall, yeah.
Baseball season, anything happening in the spring?
There's a big,
Because I would do it on a Saturday when it's the spring if you're, It's also nice when the DPW is like right across the field from the soccer fields. I've seen that be very
It's
successful
not.
too.
No, no,
Uh,
but training, flat space.
No soccer.
Greg,
Anything
what are you
else?
giving per person square footage in the office?
I don't know, it's about 5,200 square feet, that's for
The
everything.
whole thing?
Yeah.
Is that where locker rooms are? and all
That would locker room, break rooms, corridors, IT closet, all of that, yeah.
Because that, UMass, they're given like 135 square feet per person as a standard,
Mhm.
so.
But they're doing larger spaces, aren't they? I mean, I know because when we do like Eversource, we do their office layouts. And what's insane, I mean, I say it's literally insane, everybody gets their 8x6 cubicle. And the fact that I have 5 square feet over here, they'll just let it, what we call dead dog space. Because they will not give anybody more than, and so there's these efficiencies and everything. But what they don't consider is people have to circulate. Certain cubes are bigger than others because you have plotters and copy machines and stuff. So that's why you'll see we don't do square footage, and I won't talk about our competitors, because it's very hard without laying out and understanding what you do. Because I can probably get that number down much lower, like when I do the 200 cubicles for Eversource, square footage is down really low. Because you get an 8x6 cubicle, you get 48 square, and I think we're down to like 50 square feet, 55 square foot a person, because you've just got such a big area. But everything in here you'll see is pretty much specialized. I mean, the bathroom is the bathroom is the bathroom because I have to be.
You were right there.
I have to be accessible. These corridors we make usually like, they have to be a minimum 5. We make them 6 so that they work a little better and stuff. This entry area, it's a vestibule. I need to still be able to get, because those have to be 5 feet by 7 feet deep. And so you start plugging all these things, and this area, I mean, this person and this person are one and the same. Because these 2 people are working, they see somebody and they walk up there. So who do you allocate this space for? As you can see, Scott's office is basic, desk, credenza, and a 2-person thing so we can do counseling or, meeting with the vendor and stuff. Conference rooms, we don't make them any narrower than 15 feet wide, because otherwise you can't get in there, or I'm stepping on your back trying to get around the table. These are, basically your 8x8 cubes, or these might be the 6x8 cubes. Flat files are 3x4, but then I need to make sure I can get 5 feet around. So that's why we do everything based on what you need. And then once we get this all worked out, this is why we try to, depending on where the column grids and everything. So it's more of like an art than a science to say, because I think some of our competitors, that's why you always end up with the 40,000 square foot buildings at $50 million a pop, because they haven't realized that they take all their cubes and they add them up, and that's where it happens.
So all it's by code, how much space you need around file cabinets and whatnot?
Yes.
For a wheelchair?
Yes, exactly.
And whatnot?
Mm-hmm. And plus the fact, like, this aisle is wider than 5 feet. It's like probably 6 feet. But the reason being is if you pull the drawer open, I need to be able to stand and look in the thing. And, when Gary walks by it and rubs me, I won't take it the wrong way.
Come on, Rich.
How does he know you, Gary?
It was an interesting survey. I just want you to know. It's like, Gary, you really don't need to be so close. I can take this,
Double checking.
So, but anyway, and everybody asks me about this always. It really is to pretty much the bare minimum on this for the office.
You can shrink it up a very little bit and maybe lose a bathroom stall just on volume, but it's not worth
that's
the.
Code. That's code for.
Yeah.
No, but based on its square footage.
No, it's square footage.
It's square footage. So I have to take the overall
That's
square
what I mean,
footage,
yeah.
and this area requires me to have X number of toilets
Yeah,
because it's
depending what the
storage. This one's
usage,
this,
yeah.
and
So if you shrunk it where it was bare minimum, you might lose a stall in each, but it's just not
because
worth.
I can tell you right now,
Yeah.
this women's room will never have
Yeah.
4 women in there at one time.
Well, it's overflow.
Now, what I
Don't
have
put
seen
signs up.
is the Carlisle, and you're working on this, the Carlisle Fire Department, because they only have 1 bathroom, they have a men's and women's, it's a W and an M, and they just spin it, depending on
Yeah.
who's in it at that point in time. Literally, that's what they do. It's an M, now it's a W. So,
That's a cost-saving measure.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
and it's like this area, I mean, chances are you're never going to have, you don't put it in, you won't get it through. So, but these 2 might use it, you never know. They're going to want a personal locker. And you notice they get the privacy door for some reason, because it's,
So you talked about lockers earlier.
Mhm.
Some were expensive, some were less
Right.
expensive. Is that later down the road to make decisions on that stuff?
well, see, this is
Trim,
like
or-
this, we call these platform lockers. This is an aftermarket. You might say, I don't care about the guys. Put your equipment in there and put shelves. So you can probably pull $20,000 off the number. These lockers you're not going to change. Those are going to get built in on day 1. You know, if you go down to the garage, we also have some platform lockers there because the mechanics usually like to hang up their coat since they're at the other end, you know. So there's just little things like that. Sometimes, because I know Boxford asked if you can scroll down to the mechanics garage, all the way over to the, okay. So they always ask me, do I need this bathroom here? And the answer is yes, okay? Because you start carrying the distance and stuff. I said, but what am I saving? I still have to bring plumbing for the sink and the emergency eye wash. So why not throw a toilet in there and stuff, you know?
But if he goes to the bathroom 4 times a day and he's walking an extra
Yeah.
minute, but then he gets sidetracked because he's talking to whoever on the other side of the
Hopefully
building.
after he's on his way back.
Well,
not
yeah.
there.
But if he's just right there, goes quick, and he's back to work,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, plus the fact that they're probably covered with the oil and
Yeah,
grease and
stepped in
stuff. And you
grease that
don't,
fell on the
you
floor.
don't want to. So anyway, it's, you know, and then like this office. Is this office bigger than the mechanic needs? Sure. But what am I going to do? You know, jog it or something here there at that point, you know? And then, yeah. So anyways, these are just different things that we've, you know, learned and studied over the time.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Meeting is ready. Thank